Hello, and thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me today. I hope that there's something in here that is a benefit to you or to somebody that you know. Please like, subscribe, share. Share tends to help the analytics on all the streaming platforms. So please share on from your favorite platform and have others take a look at it. And please feel free to leave a comment down below. Other than that, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules. So I wanted to look a little bit. I wanted to bring up again, YouTube has new rules in which they will censor what they consider to be borderline content. Doesn't have to be misinformation or disinformation, just anything that they themselves deem as borderline content. So with that said, please feel free to follow us under D&L Mentors, the links in the videos, on Gab, Minds, Getter, Rumble, Odyssey, and of course on Locals. Locals, I hope soon to have some special content created just for that particular platform. Give me a little bit more time, another week or two to get some things set on my end, and we can go ahead and we'll be able to have that taken care of. So if you see my page disappear, please look for me on one of the other platforms. So I wanted to start today going over the ESG. It's the woke version of the CCP. The woke is the US version of the CCP or the Communist Party. With the FBI being used very much similar to the KGB these days, it's kind of hard to see much difference. As a matter of fact, Noam Chomsky has said that America presently is more communist than communist Russia. Take that as you will. If you happen to know who Noam Chomsky is. If you don't, please, I encourage you to go look up everything for yourself and think for yourself. With that said, it's kind of the ESG that we see going on right now. It has brought diversity, inclusion, and equity. I know they say it the other way, but it's the reason why all these businesses are currently starting to have things like the Office of almost said Homeland Security, the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity. Again, it's not equality where we all can work and have a favorable outcome. Of course, we're all starting at different places. We're all going to have different endings based on the amount of work we put into things. With communism, it doesn't matter how much work you put in. This is why with the quiet quitting crowd, it fits them so well. Because they think they'll still be able to slack off at work. Oh, it won't work that way because under usually communism, socialism, any of those, you end up, if you're not working hard enough, unlike where capitalists, you just don't get paid. In those other countries, you tend to disappear and find yourself in a gulag, concentration camp like China. It's going to be interesting because a lot of these people continue to think they're immune to such things. It ain't going to happen. When the system comes for you, it's going to treat you just like everybody else. Don't think I've given it no reason to. Even now, we have cadets in the Air Force who talk about how they hate their country, that it's racist, that the 1619 project's being pushed. They're being told in the Air Force that you need to stop using the terms mother and father, and you need to be using the terms caregiver and parenting person. That you need to stop using girlfriend and boyfriend and use significant other or partner. This is not only going on in the Air Force, but the other branches of service. It's kind of sad and disgraceful. A lot of the people who also, Republicans and therefore the Constitution, have also lost their positions. Not to mention the shot that was forced upon them, which we're finding out now to do so was unconstitutional. New York had just, as of filming this, the other day announced, private workers don't need to get the shot, but municipal workers still need to have the vaccine. A judge also just passed a ruling saying that it was against the state constitution to order these people to either get the shot or be fired, and therefore they all officers in New York that didn't get the shot, that were fired and let go, are now reinstated. I hope this trend continues across the United States. We lost a lot of good medical workers because of this, just not just officers and police and firefighters. We lost a lot of emergency care people that are good and dedicated to their jobs because of this silly vaccine. We need these people back. We need them working. Ambulance drivers, paramedics. We need these people employed. I urge all states to rescind that stupid vaccine mandate that, even though just the other day, it would have been, I believe it was last Sunday, you had the president saying that the pandemic is over. It's done. It's over. But it's funny how all the laws stay in effect and continue to go. With the pandemic being over, you still have Biden enforcing the executive order of the vaccine mandate. What makes sense about that? If the pandemic's over, then all laws that were set because of the pandemic should now officially be ended. Such as, you have Kamala Harris saying how voting in person is not democratic. Okay, she's on some good drugs. That's all there is to it. I don't know why she'd say that otherwise. Well, again, I do, because when she was on the campaign trail running for vice president, she said that the election was all about power. It was a means in pursuit of power. It was to take power. With her saying how voting in person is undemocratic. And the reason she's saying this is because a lot of states are trying to ban drop boxes, because a lot of the state Supreme Courts have ruled that drop boxes were unconstitutional, or a lot of these changes that were made for COVID specifically were illegal to be done, which has also caused the Democrats to win the way they did. There's a Times article that says that very same thing. Right now, you also have Kamala Harris saying how, it's illegal to bribe people with food and water, because it is. You can give people waiting in line food and water. You just can't bribe them with it, saying, well, I'll give you food, but you have to vote this way. That's illegal. But to give food and water, that is not illegal. Some states have it within 100 feet, some are 50 feet. Depends on your state, within the door of the voting place. But she's saying, you can't give anybody food and water. Whatever. And she went on to say that it's undemocratic to change the voting laws back to pre-COVID laws. But if the pandemic's over, how is it undemocratic? Oh, wait, because the Democrats want to stay in power. This concerns me also because I have an article. I have this article here by the Post Millennial, and it's breaking news as of September 21st of 2022. And it says, House invokes January 6th to pass bills modifying the Electoral College certification. This isn't the exact one. But she also says that the voting by proxy as of COVID is also still in place until November 10th, which means that the senators don't have to show up. They can vote by proxy, and because they vote by proxy, an official count isn't taken, so that you won't be able to tell who's voting for what until after the election. No, it's not shady at all. This is the same woman who says that she wants to be ambassador to Italy should there be a red wave coming. What's interesting about the January 6th thing, because it's her and Liz Cheney, and this did pass the House, unfortunately. What it does is the bill states that no person acting under the color of law shall willfully fail or refuse tabulate, count, or report any vote that is timely cast and is otherwise valid under applicable state and federal laws, or certify the aggregated tabulation of such votes, or certify the election of the candidate receiving sufficient votes to be elected to office. In addition, the law affirms that the sitting vice president would have no role in the process beyond being a figurehead, barring them from changing the results, a measure that refers to Trump's push for Pence to reject the electoral votes of January 6th. Ooh, that's a good one. Because why? That implies that up until this law passed, the vice president could decide if there was 2 states sending electoral colleges for the count, that he could either choose or reject both. As it is, he chooses one side, and that's what he did in a lot of cases. There were a couple states that sent 2 versions because the governor would certify one set of votes and the state senate would certify another set of votes. But see, here's the catch. The governor certifying without their state senate certifying it should have made the governor's vote illegal, which means Pence should have counted the state senate being sent, and those were in support of Trump, where the governor supported Biden. There's a lot of funny things that happened on January 6th, but this implies that Pence had the choice, the ability to say, both of you go away till we settle this. Pence could have done anything he wanted to make sure the election was fair. This says, oh, he's just a figurehead to count. So why is he even there then? In the past, obviously, he wasn't just a figurehead. Legal challenges are not improper, but Donald Trump refuses to abide by the rulings of the courts. Certainly was. Okay, Liz Cheney, here's my question. I know Trump put forth a bunch of protests in court, and most of them were all thrown out, including the one to the Supreme Court was thrown out, which means Trump never actually had his day in court, like the American Constitution says he should have. There's a problem there. Because again, she's saying, oh, the courts ruled against... No, the courts didn't rule against him. The courts threw the stuff out, either saying you should have brought this information to the courts pre-election, because it can't be changed now. Too bad. Or you need to bring it to us before the next election. Or they just simply threw it out on no standing. But he's the dude that's affected by the vote, so he had standing. Whatever, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an accountant. It's a bunch of doesn't make sense to if you ask me. So as you see, they continue to push. And then again, that January 6th, how is that a fair trial? It wasn't. It was a sham. It was a joke. He didn't even have his case heard by his peers. The Supreme Court just flat out refused to hear it because, well, they can do that. But then again, I also believe that the Constitution should be amended to say there's only 9 Supreme Court justices, end of story, since they want to change it to being okay with gay marriages and making the vice president just a figurehead. In our system of government, elections in the state determine who is the president. Our bill does not change that. Oh, yes, it does. But this bill will prevent Congress from illegally choosing the president itself. Originally, the states would send a single representative and the people had no say. And I kind of like that idea. And then that person would dictate, again, what their state said, who the president was. So they're trying to change the electoral college, which is something they've been trying to do. The filibuster, add gay marriage. Don't get me, well, so I wanted to bring that up and show that, yeah, this passed the House. It's a question of whether it'll pass the Senate or not. So I also wanted to point out that lying is not a sin. Bearing false witness is. Bearing false witness, a good example would be the January 6th Commission, where they are putting forth lies. Even Tim Pool had his videos edited and manipulated in such a way as to look like he too was encouraging the violence of January 6th, which he wasn't. So that is an example of them bearing false witness. See, to lie, oh, you'll be fine, you'll be okay, but bearing false witness is just what's happening to Trump, or with Liz Cheney sitting there saying, oh, he had his day in court. He never did. It's bearing false witness that's the sin. That, going on to Stacy Abrams, I'm sure some of you, I don't know if all of you had managed to hear, Stacy Abrams saying, oh, the heartbeat at 6 weeks, it's just a hoax. It's manufactured so that men can continue to control women's bodies. It's a sound that's piped in. Okay. Ultrasound is basically sonar. It picks up, sends out a sound wave and picks up sound waves and the reflection of such. Because you can hear 2 distinct heartbeats, the mother and the babies. So she's saying it's all fake because she's against the idea of abortion laws. Again, something they want to put into the Constitution. They don't think it belongs there. Abortion is the actions of man. It is not the will of God. It is man thinking he is more superior than God. It is women deciding that they don't need to follow a code of morals and ethics. There are reasons why society has lived and survived for so long on the idea of the mother and the father and the family. And if the state can continue to erode the family, then the state will be your God. Take LGBTQ stuff. They believe there is no God. They have to, because the idea of what they do is a direct violation in the Bible. Whereas like communism, and they say the ends justify the means in modern media, there's a lot of similarity. Modern media, these big conglomerates, all these news stations are only controlled by 5 companies. That's it. 5 companies control all the news stations. This is why the news stations all sound like they're reflecting or saying a lot of the same key talking points. Planned Parenthood also goes on to say that a heartbeat is at 5 weeks. Stacy Abrams continues to say that the heartbeat is fake. Now, but Stacy Abrams is the same woman who continues to believe that the 2020 election for governor was stolen from her and she's the rightful governor of Georgia. It's okay for her to say that it was stolen, but not for people to say that it was in other areas. Doesn't make sense. Obviously, it shows controlled speech. Now, I wanted to point out, now some people have said, before Arizona was a state. Well, there was a law in the books that dates back to 1864. Again, before Arizona was a state, back when it was just a territory. There's a law in the books from 1864 for Arizona that says that abortion is illegal, period, end of story, unless it is in the case of the mother's health. And people are getting so upset, oh, what about incest? What about rape? Well, these are bad things and shouldn't happen. But why should a child be murdered because of these things? Because this, like I said, this goes back, you can look it up, Arizona, 1860 law on abortion. And I know I was going to do I'd mentioned to several people that I was going to do a commentary on Biden's red speech, and I do plan to sit down and do it. We all know that flat out that Biden's speech was divisive. It's considered sarcastic terrorism in a way in which words are used to cause anger. The results of some of that, now we had Antifa still going out, and they were already doing the sarcastic terrorism. But now, after Biden's speech, we have a 41-year-old man who was at a dance party, apparently, with an 18-year-old man. This 41-year-old man got in the car and apparently followed this 18-year-old down an alley. He got on the phone, and he was calling his mother when this man ran him down in his car. The man then refused to render aid to the 18-year-old he'd just struck with his car and went home to a different city than he was in. The 18-year-old later died because of the wounds, and it is said that if the man had stopped to render aid, the 18-year-old would have survived. In this man's social media, I'm not going to mention his name, and I'm not going to mention the name of the victim. I'm not going to give him that kind of attention. This man, during his testimony, he did not see why he was going to go to jail. He didn't think he deserved to be going to jail because he had a wife and a job and a house payments to make. He didn't see how it was bad in murdering this 18-year-old boy because he was a Republican. The 18-year-old was a Republican. The 41-year-old, honestly, in his testimony, after he scrubbed his social media, said he didn't deserve to be in jail, but he showed no remorse because a right-wing person had died. He thought he was doing his duty to the country in murdering this 18-year-old boy. Now, mind you, we have Kamala Harris saying hate crimes are only against people of color. And this was a hate crime. This was a Democrat who murdered an 18-year-old Republican because he had Republican beliefs. This goes back to, again, where you have Biden calling for the mobilization against And not just Biden, but the Democrats as a whole are calling for the mobilization against Republicans because Republicans are not for America, supposedly, and they're whatever. Again, I will sit down, and now that I've said I'm going to do it, I will do it here within the next couple of days and do kind of analysis of Biden's read sermon and how it is what motivated this 41-year-old man to murder an 18-year-old man with his car. And believe it or not, the man in the car said, "Oh, I saw him on the phone and I thought he was calling friends for help." You're in a car, you could have driven away. There's no reason to murder an 18-year-old unless it really was because of the police, because he honestly believes he did nothing wrong. He has no remorse for what he did. He was killing an evil Republican. This is your work, Biden. I hope you own up to it. But of course, we hear nothing about it on the news. And I've been holding off saying anything because of the lack of news on this. So with that, I just want to say I was looking under the miscellaneous laws in the Bible. Deuteronomy 22:5. It's in my Bible. It says, yeah, these are just miscellaneous laws. And it says, "A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God." Now, what you do in your own bedroom is none of my business. I really don't care. But it should be kept in the bedroom. And the LGBT community knows that it's an offense, so they go out. And I was going to do a nice little thing on what homophobia, transphobia, and Islamophobia actually mean, and why when the Democrats use those terms, they're using them against traditional Christians and Jews. I also wanted to point out, I was looking at Deuteronomy 23.1. "He who is emasculated by crushing or mutilating his genitals shall not enter the assembly of God," which means all of these people who voluntarily transitioned, did the full surgery from from female to male or male to female. Right there in the Bible, it says, yeah, you won't make it into heaven for doing this, which is what makes these people who do it to children so much more vile and evil. And as I've said before, when the devil convinced people he didn't exist, we found out just how evil man can be on his own. He doesn't need the devil's help to create some of the evils that man is capable of. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me. I hope that there is something in here that is a benefit to you or to someone you know. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. I will go ahead and include a link on where you can go to register. Please vote. For our freedoms, or my freedom as well as you and your children, is only guaranteed up to the next election. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for joining me. Leave a comment down below. Please like, subscribe, and share. Follow me on one of the other platforms just in case YouTube, besides my content, is borderline content. With that, I want to say, united we stand, divided we fall. God bless you, and God bless America.